did enjoy the B-17 flyover last week. Pretty cool. And as always, we're dreaming about our soon-to-be P-51 project, collecting data, collecting every possible thing we can. Well, this is a photo I wanted to show Banjack. This is where the Tiger Mouse squadron that had P-51s, they all looked alike, of course. Dan is using something very similar to this on, well, it's a Reno Air Race paint job. Tiger Mouse so prevalent in World War II and beyond. Everybody thinks it was just P-40s. Nah, not correct. We're already starting to accumulate a real nice little library of Mustang stuff. And we'll be adding to it, believe me, on a regular basis. Of course, the one we all know best, the Flying Tigers motif. Cool photo loading up the ammunition dump. I've been trying to make a point to get up the field nice and early. In a way it's working, but in a way, the thing that handicaps me is I only get about 4 hours of sleep. Anyway, I do get flights every day now, and I'm trying to really prepare for the Nats. I've got 3 more props from Dennis. They're all sanded and balanced and everything. I'm in, let's see, I don't even remember. So you get up too early in the morning. Gallon 13, we're almost at the end. And we're pretty well at this point in time trying to just fine-tune things that we want to have for the Nationals. And the purpose of the whole test day today is I have the 3 props. One is 13, one is 13 and a quarter, and one is 13 and a half. And what I do, I come out, I try to get myself a square 1 flight. From the square 1 flight, take 2 or 3 flights and see if I can get it to fly in some way better, something that I can measure or at least feel at the handle. So far what's happened is I've been real happy with, and this is a full 13 and a half. So one of the things, that you trade away when you have a 13 and a half inch prop, you do trade away a little bit of the corner, but in return you get a little more drive up top, a little more drive period. And of course you trade away the GP, so the balance is always try to fly a couple of flights, pick out the things that you like and don't like, and figure out which is the best compromise. And we're using the shallow angle pipe. This is my pipe, the shallow angle pipe. Pretty much settled in on launching between 10,000 and 10.5 depending on the weather. 10,000 for good air, 10.5 when it's blowing it crazy. But anyway, it's given us a nice range of about 500 RPM to launch at and still have a decent 2-4 on. After a square 1 flight, and that's always the best thing in the beginning of the day, because I like to get 1 square 1 flight with the prop that I had on the day before. Get a feel for the air. The air today is... So my feeling ahead of time is, and it probably taints the test, is that I've always found that in that kind of air, the biggest prop the motor will turn is the best. What happens is, there's always a trade-off. Again, I've said it a million times. The trade-off, more GP, less corner with the bigger props, and of course the motor's ability to turn the big props. Now this particular engine seems real happy with a 13-inch prop. Seems like it might even be able to turn more. And in this kind of air, again, the air, if you're on runway air, this probably is not going to be necessary. But I like to know ahead of time. I always like to know before I get there, so that I have a few good choices when it comes time to make an adjustment. It's almost like a football team at halftime. The other team is running the ball, or they're doing this or doing it. And you kind of like to know ahead of time what are the choices that will be worthwhile. Again, the tank, I don't even know how many tanks I have. There's a box over there full of tanks. But Woody's going to make one more. In the meantime, I'm just taking out the extra half ounce of fuel. The reason for that is I want the wing over pull-out to be a pretty good simulation of where it's going to be when I get the final tank in here. I'd like to finish up the prop testing today if I can, knowing, or at least having a real feel for these three props. These three seem to be, at least on this field, here's a radio page. At least under these conditions, these three props seem to pull the best of all the ones that I have in the box over there. Now, whenever you take fuel out of the tank, again, it's always, I have to work out a new routine here. It used to be 2 chokes and it would go, but because I don't have any in there, I mean, fuel, it's probably going to be 3. Let's see if it's a 3 choke. Maybe it's a dead battery. Yeah, when you fill a tank, this is not usually a factor. Maybe time for a battery. This just goes to show you, when you're flying this much and you're sleeping at the switch, this guy's totally dead. Now what I always do, good test, I keep a glow plug right in the top of the fuel and top of the toolbox, because what I want to be able to do is I take the battery off, I want to go right away, whoops, it's dead, and get the other battery. I don't want to flip around and take that glow plug out, in and out and in and out and in. I'd rather test this one. See, obviously this is dead. Now what I found helps too is, once you know you have a dead battery, let that plug sit in there a half an hour and drain it down to 0 before you recharge it. Take out the spare battery. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? You would think, come on, let's flip over. You would think you'd get, I don't know, 2 gallons of fuel out of a battery charge. Not always though. Whoops. Circle burn of air, even early in the morning like this, it's getting too shifty to really do stunt patterns even. So I come away from the day with a couple of nice little tidbits of information though. I really, after going back and forth a few times, I really feel like I need to turn that big 13.5-inch prop in the air we have here today. Now I'm sure once we get out to the runway, prop diameters can come right down. That's not a big deal. But on the other hand, I just like to know ahead of time, I need to know where the limit of this is. And until I can get something bigger than 13.5, for sure the motor isn't overloading. The motor isn't even working real hard. And these props are so nicely made. The ones Dennis has been, the last 3 that Dennis sent down, are so nicely made. I'm impressed, Dennis. This is right now the prop that, to me, flies the plane the best. I really would like to have more time on Mike's plane. Again, we have 3 of these engines, and some more time on Strega, maybe after the Nats, to see just about where these should be. But they have a real nice pitch angle. They're real low at the tip. They really fly the plane with authority. This is one of the finds that's coming out of the season. The other thing that's coming out of this season because I'm going to do some R&D myself at the end of the mats. I'm going to take all of the gas tanks apart and look inside every one of these tanks and see if I can find the culprit. Now, I've had GRW tanks, Taffender tanks, Big Jim tanks, Midgley tanks, every possible tank. There must be 7, 8 tanks in there. And I really am not sure what the culprit is, but there's days, today just happens to be one of them, where the plane is shutting off, burping a few times and shutting off, but seems like it gets a little hotter than today, and it'll just burp, 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 burp. Gee, it makes you crazy. Now, I really don't like to resort to shutting it off with a whoop if I don't have to. Well, maybe I have to. I mean, other people do too, so. But I really would like to figure out what combination of venting would make for a little bit cleaner shut-off. Anyway, that's one of the things, once we figure it out, of course, we'll write a little thing up for Stunt News, but assuming we figure it out. Anyway, we've had a good day here. I don't want to push it any further than today. The air is already gone. Had a lot of work down by the shop. We just got a big order for more carbon fiber gear, and I got to make up 10 of them. So I may as well get started, and even a little session like this, if I can come away, this is the whole thing, if I can come away from every session knowing one thing I didn't know the day before, and I wasn't sure. In other words, one of the things that's real nice with the smaller diameter props, now same prop, same pitch, I have never even de-pitched these props. Same thing all around. What happens is, with the lower diameters, the motor really unloads in the 2-cycle, a violent unloading. And the way I'm running this pipe, with the narrow angle pipe, it's a very soft transition from 4 to 2, from 4 to 2, and that's what all big displacement engines seem capable of doing. But it seems like maybe we could even go to 13 3/4 if I could get Dennis to make one up, or if he had a mold for it. Or, of course, one of the real possibilities is, at the end of the season, if we really fall in love with something here, is we'll take the best one we have, add 1/8 of an inch to each tip with, some resin, grind it all in and make up a new mold and have Dennis mold us up from our mold. Anyway, a good day. I should quit while I'm ahead. While the air is so bad, this is an excellent time to quit. It's so good to come back from the day of flying when you know the air is going to ruin your whole day. Rather than being disappointed, nothing the feeding the fish wouldn't cure. Right, fish? The fish never have to worry about good air. Every day the air is good when you're a fish. As long as they give you something to eat, everything's okay, in fact. Word is out. Windy fix to the fishers. Hey, these guys. Hey, how about a little respect? Yeah, they're probably thinking, boy, he's home. I bet the air at the cornfield was crappy this morning. And they're right. Okay, when you're a fish, everything is okay. The fish are so overfed, it's unbelievable. Hey, I'm feeding the fish out here. The phone rings. It's His Eminence Rich Jacobone wanting to put the clear on his Strega today. Could not have picked a better day because obviously nobody can go flying in this weather. Anyway, we should be over momentarily, and well, we're looking forward to seeing how Strega shaped up. But he did. He made a Strega from a Cardinal kit, of course. But he's been inventing his paint job as he goes along, inventing everything, in fact. And I'm just looking forward to seeing this is going to be his first all-Brodak dope finish. We're looking forward to seeing how this is going to buff out in the end. Abdullah has arrived. Let's see how this looks in the sun, Rich. You got the watering all dry? You pulled all the tape up? Good. All right. All right. Boy, the canopy looks great. Well, I didn't know you were talented like that. Well, if I knew that, I would have told Gene. All right, that looks great. Looks good. Like the detail in there? Yeah, it might be a good idea to take the cowl off so that we can spray inside. Okay. Or we want to spray in by where the landing gear is going to go. You know what I should have made you? We could still make one. Make up a set of landing gear with the yellow and the resin, so the landing gear is yellow. We could do that. You mean the landing gear itself? Yeah, I can make that. That's no problem. Just put dye in the resin. How's the bottom look? Yeah. Yeah, we want to take the cowling off so we could spray all in there. All right, I'm going to mix up the paint. You missed the spot right here. Get your credit card out while I'm mixing the paint. I would say that's not bad for a guy that didn't build a... How long has it been since you honestly and truly built a plane? 40 years?
Close to it. I worked on
35? Well, that doesn't count. I mean, a full-size plane from right from scratch.
Yeah, about 35 years.
Okay. All right, I'm going to mix up this plane is another one in our unending series of all Brodak dope. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to mix up a quart of Brodak clear, a quart of thinner. Paint one part, doesn't matter what part. Let it sit for roughly half an hour, and if it doesn't cloud up, we'll just continue painting. If it clouds up, we'll add a little retarder to the mix. Usually a little more thinner than paint to try to get the whole quart on, or maybe 3/4 of the quart on, and then you're going to wet sand it out, and then put the last coat on. And this is overspray. Let me get up close. See this overspray? Now what we're doing, just take some Gorham's on a paper towel. Go ahead. Clean that up. And only go till you get the overspray off. You're not looking to buff it out. It's coming right off. And you got some out here. See, he's got the white kind of overspray. The white might be a problem to get off. This is where that tinfoil was flapping around here. And if you go through, then you got touch of paint with you, right? Some of it didn't bring it.
I forgot it.
Didn't bring the wizard of paint over here. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, this will clean up any little overspray. Let's see what you got. See this?
Remembered.
This you could fix here. Okay, this you can fix with a credit card. You want to take as much of this stuff off the horns as you can get off, if you can get some of that.
That stuff comes off.
Okay.
That's not a problem. All you have to do is just scrape it a little bit. Right off.
Gorham, huh? Gorham silver polish. So you got a little spot up here. Well, let me put this on a tape. Go ahead, take that spot right there off. Okay, there's a spot right here. Okay. All right, while you're doing that, let me mix up the paint. Yeah, looks like we got a good day. Yeah, it looks like it's drying up pretty nice here. All right. Boy, it was so windy out there, there was no way. Can you imagine trying to shoot video out there today? Holy mackerel. This was the worst day of air I've ever seen. All right, it's just a question now. Order the pizza. Well, she already ordered pizza. Let this dry up. I don't see any spots that really are terrible.
No.
Now, you want to take this home. From 1200, nothing but 1200 and a little bit of, just dust it off. See, like you got a bug in here, right here. Wait till it's dry and pull that. That'll come right out. But let it dry. When it's wet, you make, you got plenty in by the pipe tunnel. All right, I think that'll be fine. All right, wait for the old pizza pie trick. He did one nice job on the cockpit, I gotta tell you. Mr. Strager is very impressed with this cockpit here. Very, very nice. See, when you work for Rich, you don't get paid in Swarties or in Copex or what the hell those things. You're paid in round, pizza-shaped pieces. All right, let's drink and eat the Strega. Posing for Playboy here. All right, now don't forget, nice job sanding it out. Let's see. Oh, you gotta love Brodak dope, no doubt about that. I love the cockpit. The cockpit definitely is good. You definitely did a nice job there. All right, let's see if you can get that in the truck without driving over it or backing over it or something.
Bite your tongue.
And by the way, I don't want anybody, he lost the rudder. We had a gust of wind come through. Where is that rudder?
I hope it's home.
If it isn't home, I think the wind blew it in the fish pond and a fish ate it or something. All right, Strega, load them up.
I will load it up.
We got some final photos. This is Walt Brownell's scale ship. Boy, this is really detailed. Can you imagine if this was a stunt model like a Bob Whiteley razor? Holy mackerel. Anyway, I'm assuming, I don't know, that Walt is going to have this entered in scale at the Nats, but he should do very, very well. Now, of course, there's I call Patty Wagstaff. I call her Flatty Pagstaff or Fatty Pag Waggy or Wag the dog or what. Not sure. I get all tongue-tied. Anyway, look at the detailing on this. This is really something. Just look at some of the details on this. But just imagine now, I mean, scale planes, of course, the criteria is different, but imagine having all this detail on a stunt ship. Wow. Walt, I have to tell you, this is some finish. Look at the landing gear details where the landing gear go into the fuse. That's funny. Try to say Patty Wagstaff 3 times real quick. Patty Wagstaff, Flatty Wagstaff. It really is funny. Cameron's even laughing at that. Anyway, Walt, this looks awesome. Good luck. Hope you win the Nats. Now today we've been making a pipe. Look at this new resin. This is the Cotronic 600 degree resin. You put a heat lamp on it and it smokes. Anyway, don't break that. We're going to go put it in the oven, but while we're waiting for that, I just wanted to make sure that's going to set up. That's one of our test pipes. One of the things we wanted to do now, Mike, you want to glass this roughly from the high point of the wing forward.
Right.
Okay, so let's get out some of that glass. What do you have, 0.75?
Right.
Droop it over the nose from here forward, and let's just make a rough cut. Leave it oversized in all the dimensions to start with. Get a brand new XL blade. Let me get you a new blade, otherwise that stuff boogers up. Okay, I always like to trim. Get one of those black marker pens, and we'll put, you know the old trick with the dots? I like to just droop this over, and now taking, this is 0.75 SIG cloth, just putting some dots along here where this is going to go. So we're making just a really rough pattern for this. Now anytime, as many resins as I've tried, this is the resin that seems to work the best for this kind of glass work. The SIG resin, where one tube is twice as big as the other, for some reason, that seems always to work real well, very easy and friendly to use. Okay, just get the dots. When you get to the leading edge, you know you're going to have to cut that off. If you really wanted to lope that back, you could. And I would leave maybe 1/4 inch extra on the nose, maybe even 1/2 inch extra on the nose. You know, just give yourself, now you have 2 choices. You can take a brand new XL blade or brand new scissors, nice clean new scissors, which we don't have any. Cut that pattern out and do a little dry fit before we mix up the epoxy. Make sure it's close to the size you want. If in doubt, it's always better to leave the cloth a little bit bigger than smaller. And I've done some really, really accurate tests. If you use 0.5, 0.75, or 1.5, the weight gain is so little on the heavier cloth that it's measured in parts of a grain. It does not pay to try to really skimp on cloth. And a lot of times up here you want to maybe even put an extra piece right along the joint, or if you have one of these, like you have here, glue seams, we can wrap an extra little band-aid when that's all over, whatever scrap you have. Okay, so you have your pattern. Check it out, make sure it fits. Get a dry fit on it, make sure it's close to what you want. Also, the heavier cloth maintains its shape a little better than the real ultra light stuff. But of course, you always have people that prefer ultra light, and if you like that, fine. And you always have, one thing this does, not only is protect it from the obvious vibration things, you have heavy-handed people that have C-clamps and they pick your plane up like a little derrick. Alright, that looks pretty good, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get us in the ballpark.
Okay, we always mix the epoxy by grain weight, 2 to 1. And when you think it's mixed, the key to all epoxy mixes is you think it's mixed and you say, okay, that's great. Look at your watch, give it 2 minutes more minimum of mixing. Take whatever's at the edge and fold it in, just like when you're mixing concrete. Fold it in from the inside. Everything from the outside to the end. Typically, if you're mixing in a cup, you want to use a figure 8 pattern. All the tech bulletins always tell you that. Mixing this up is really a key part of this. Now, this is the first day in the history of my life. First day, Mike is here, and we're working with an air conditioner in the shop. Can you believe this? It's 100 degrees outside, and we have an air conditioner. This is an old air conditioner from my bedroom. We got a new one in the bedroom. A nice part about doing fiberglass work or epoxy work with an air conditioner on is you have an extended pot life. But as soon as you really want this to dry, just go put it in your truck for 5 minutes. Put that in your truck for 5 minutes and
That's it, you're done working with it.
Now I use these old things when I'm making up the composite landing gears every day, so I always have a couple dozen of them sitting around. But you see what happens, they get all chewed up, and even if you try to clean this, it will peel off. But there's always a nice other thought. You could always spring for, what is it, $1 or something?
90 cents.
90 cents. Now Mike, being a big spender and having inherited a lot of money from his parents,
Yeah.
okay, he's got a brand, I've never even had a brand new one. Anyway, okay, you've got that mixed?
Yeah.
Now what you want to do is just paint that on using a trowel. Paint as thin a coat as you can. First off, let's get the plane sticking out over the table a little bit, and I'll show you another trick here. Hang on. Tell you, it is nice having the air conditioner on though. If you've never had the luxury of working in an air-conditioned shop, trust me, it's cool. Anyway, this was the trick. We throw a couple of towels on the back because you're pressing down a lot on the nose. And what I'm trying to get Mike to do is go against the grain so that we, in effect, fill all the grain. I don't want to have an air pocket anywhere in there. Just squeegee it right on. Now, all of the SIG cloth has a chemical called Velon that helps it absorb the epoxy extremely quickly, so you really don't have to panic if you miss a little spot and you trowel it on later, it'll go right on. That whole nose painted up. Now you obviously could do this with a flux brush. You could do it with a brush of any kind. Anything that made you happy. The trowel, the reason I like the little squeegee or trowel is it kind of forces it down into the grain. And of course the more you can get into the grain, the better bite you're going to have. You get a surface tooth area. You don't even have to worry about wiping it all off because as soon as you hit that with the hairdryer, it's going to thin right out like water. It won't be a problem at all. Okay, you ready to put that cloth on?
Yeah. Wait a minute. Look at my hands clean.
Now, we don't want to use any trick photography like as if you get this right on the first shot. See, if you made the bed as much as Karen makes me make the bed, I make the bed in our family every day. I know how to just flap that sheet and get that sucker to just lay right down. All right. Let it lay down right in front of the nose and just let it droop right down. Show everybody that high skill level. We're not going to go back and edit this tape out if you wrinkle this all up and it turns into a pumpkin. Look, it is professional. If it goes too far back, it's okay too. Don't worry about it. Yep, slide it up. Touch it with your fingertips. Just pat it down with fingertips, Mike. Gives you a little tack area, a little area to work with. Okay. Now you can work your way to, oh boy, this guy, oh, I'm telling you. I can do you a job making these things, you know.
He's been here before, this guy.
Wow, Jamie would be so proud. Now, if you just tap your fingertips into it, you'll get it to just tack down little by little by little. This is where people usually get panicky to get a wrinkle and they want to get every... You don't need to get every wrinkle out right now. You only need to get them out when you have the hairdryer. That's going to look like you're going to have very little work there. Just keep pressing it with your fingertips. That's the easiest way I know of to get it to lay right down. What a guy. Oh, man. I can see you've made a bed at least once in your whole life. We got to get this done in a hurry because Rich Jacobone's coming here with Strager ready to bench. We're going to try to get his bench set up for him. And Sunday is Fly Strager Day. We're done with our house renovation. Through the magic of video, we've skipped about 2 weeks in the middle of this video, but... Okay. If you like pushing it down with your fingertips, that's fine too. And if you let some roll out into the fillets, even better. That'll reinforce the fillets. Look at this technique. See now where you have this big bubble? If you grab this down here and just, oh yes. Just work it back. Is just trowel on plenty. You don't have to be fancy about it or anything. Just get it good and wet, soaking wet. And as soon as we hit that with a hairdryer, we're going to start troweling it off and dropping it up on an empty gallon can. The trick is always use the low setting. If you see little air bubbles, you know you're making the epoxy too hot. Let it warm. And if you're in a place where you can start at the middle and work out, in other words, you want to start and stretch it. You don't want to go from the bottom up and then you're going to make wrinkles. You want to always get like a sunburst from anywhere that's in the middle out. And you'll see at the end of this, almost all of it will come right out. You can see here, he's got half of it off. Let the heat do the work. You know, let the heat sit on it first. As soon as the heat hits that, usually it turns to water right away, almost instantly. Let the heat do the work. You notice how if you try to do it when it's not warm, you can't get it off.
Right, don't come here.
No, you got to get it warm, and then and you've got about 5 minutes or so to do this. You've got more than enough time, so just work your way down. You get all done, go back to the original spot, and you'll see you can even get more off. I find it real handy to have the top of an empty gallon can or an old can. Just wipe it right off. You see, we're basically going to wind up getting almost all of it off. Just let the heat do the work. I don't know, the other part of this that's real important is you don't want to soak this with alcohol. Just want to have this wrung out, nice damp edge, and feather edge wherever it ends. Press it right down in the fillet. You can bring some up over the canopy even. It'll basically just seal it up, make the sanding a lot easier. Any spot like this, Mike, where you have a little bit of a glob, just, it's going to sand right out anyway, but this gives you an extra little bit. Oh, that's nice. What we'll do, once this dries, flip it over, wrap the two bottom pieces, let them overlap even if you want. And put it aside. Best to dry 48 hours. You can do it in 24, but in 48, it'll just sand a lot easier.
Okay.
Looks good. Okay, now you can flip it over. And then we'll just overlap the bottom. Just make the joint so you have a 1/4 inch overlap. She's all wrapped around. Now the trick is we've got to find some place to put this to dry. Hopefully someplace where it'll be nice and warm. That'll be fine.
Get a little in there.
Oh boy, from glass in the nose to painting it in 2 minutes. That's pretty good. Hold on, let's get all fiberglass off the table. Let's clean the table here. Okay, now, unfortunately, Rich had to have, you can give the guy's name. The guy shot the last coat of clear on this to blow that clear. Due to the fact that we were renovating houses and killing tenants and going to jail. There goes President Brodak calling me up right now. One in any bench trimming, did all the surfaces knurled. All these back surfaces on the prop are very smooth. Let's see how you're doing it. Get as much knurling on there as you possibly can. Anytime you get back, press right down on it. Nail it, don't be afraid. Wind up with all the surfaces knurled. Most important thing other than knurling the parts, and we're trying to do a bench trim here, make sure this has got a good knurl on it, which it does. By pull the engine out, we got to make a gasket for the back. You remember how to make the gaskets, Mike? We got any more of that gasket material?
Yeah.
Okay. Something that is unacceptable for a first. That tank is too loose. And we don't know where the shim is going to wind up, but for right now, if that tank is vibrating around like that,
I have shims for the top.
We'll make some shims. We get the knurls going. Let's get the shims in there nice and tight. Gear worked out nice, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Another important thing, get some knurls on that header. Otherwise, these things just slide right off. What are you looking for? Yeah, you're going to need them. What do you think? You'll need one for the rest of your life?
No, for what though?
As these custom-made gaskets, what are these, $10.95 each?
Yeah.
But for Rich, for you only, $12.95.
Oh, you guys have all...
And now see, if you came up to the field Sunday so unprepared.
And the fuel filter says $3, but
For you, $5. President Brodak calling again. Good thing you have us to watch over you. Tips: never use washers on the mounting bolts. Make sure you get each one started a couple of times before don't try tightening one. We'll start with the pipe at the full length. Just want to get the thing. This is real important. Knurling that prop is real important. Get a filter set up. Did we ever have fuel in that tank yet? Or no? This will be the first time?
Yep.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. No, that's right.
No? Okay, so you can bet the filter's going to have something in it the first couple of flights. So we'll run aground once. Okay, Rich is demonstrating the fine art of taping the hinge lines and removing part of his finger with a blade.
It's right there on the table.
Lay the packaging tape down on the table, hinge line packaging tape. If you get the tape that's way too sticky, it pulls the paint off. You get the tape that isn't sticky enough, it flies off in flight. Okay, now, so you just lay it on the table, don't press it down, now peel it up. Rich said, don't worry, I have fingernails, I'll have no trouble. But because we're in limited time here, we only have 1 day to trim this plane before we go to the Nats. Nice, professional.
He told you not to press down too hard.
You just lay it on the table, don't press down there. You got the length of the elevator? Nope. Mike, fire him. He's a real Strager. Okay. Pull it up slow. There you go. Okay. You only need the length of the elevators now. You don't need half of that. What are you taking on board? You can tell he didn't pay for this tape. Okay, go over to an elevator. Do this one. Move the deflection totally the opposite way.
The other side.
Now wait, do the other side. Lay it on the front part first. Let it stay on that. Wow, more! 3/8 of an inch. Why'd you think? That's better. Try to get it even. Oh, that's real even. Okay. Now just press the front down. Now, just push it down into the hinge line. Real easy. Press it down all the way. Okay, trim the edges and you're all set. Now I'm sure George Aldrich right now and Dave Cook, who also fly counterclockwise, well, clockwise, are laughing. Rich put the whole thing together, I put the whole thing together, and if you notice the tank vents, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong is the overflow vent is on the bottom of the tank, so as soon as we went to fill it, we put an ounce of fuel in the tank, and it's overflow. So we got to pull this tank out now, and I got to move that vent down to the other side, and we just leave this one in here and cap it off. See? You got to learn to fly the right way. You told George Aldrich, I said, fly the right way, and that's all there is to it. All right, pull it out. Now, believe me, you'll never hear about it on the video. I won't even tell you. We were up all night working on this plane. This is Rich's first flight. And I didn't even get a chance to do the camera. You can tell I'm out of breath. I'm so frustrated. Look at this arm movement. Anyway, to make the story short, we had to make a tank because a normal tank, when you put it in a plane that flies this way, siphons all the fuel. We couldn't, the cowling was rubbing on the spinner. He bought some white zip ties. Here's what happened. Where are those white zip ties, Mike? Oh, he probably picked them up. Two white zip ties. We started the motor, the bench run the motor, all the zip ties broke, the pipe went flying off the plane. Among other things. Anyway, first flight, we're just going to look and see if the wing is level. We're basically going to spend the day working with him, even though he doesn't deserve it. He made us crazy, believe me, we want to all kill him. In the time since the last time we shot video, we put a brand new concrete pad out here. Now we have three choices, and they're all bad. What we ought to do is put a fan in to kill the wind. Anyway, I'm going to try to get a picture of his face. He looks like the happiest. We were up all night. As soon as he went for that wing over, I saw the smile, Mike. And it's only a couple of days before the Nats. We're all trying to put the push on, but we wanted to give Rich every chance. What we wound up doing is putting my motor that has 30 gallons of fuel through it, just so we wouldn't have to deal with breaking in a new motor and dealing with all that nonsense. But he is a happy boy. Trust me. Does that wing look pretty level, Mike? Now, the only trouble with trimming a new plane, I can't fly this firm. And I have to do everything from outside the circle because I'm not left-handed, so. So rule one, don't use the white zip ties that let go. We figured that out. Home Depot white zip ties break when you use them. So we do have some of the first flight here forever recorded. Pattern King over here. There you go. Now, after staying up all night with this turkey, Rich, I gotta tell you, we love you, but last night you put us to the test. Glides nice.
Well, was it worth staying up all night?
My eyes are wide open.
I hope I'm going to show this video to Gene. Hey, Rich, I'll tell you the truth, that's the first time I've seen you smile in 3 days. In 4 days? If your wife isn't satisfied tonight, you better be on your best behavior when you go home, keeping us up all night. All right, what did it feel like? Feels like the handle's too big, right?
Feels like it's a little tail heavy.
All right, put the cowling on.
The slightest movement.
Yeah, we'll put the cowling and then... All right, bring the handle in. It looked pretty good. Bring the handle in, remove the handle in before we start adding any nose weight. Always move the handle in before you add nose weight. Put it right on the starting pad, Mike. You're the only guy flying. Brian's not going to fly at all today. He said he wants to see you have a good time. We're sending you off to the Nats with a big hurrah. Look at a smile, look. Look at a smile. Where are we going for lunch, Rich?
Yeah, don't give me the
Steve's Sizzling Steaks? Yeah, not Burger King, huh? All right, you was. Was that worth it or what?
Yes.
Okay. You bet. Okay, so for the first flight, we had the cowling off because we were cleaning the fuel filter. We bench ran it a couple of times and got as much because I changed the vent in the tank, so that's always a problem. This looks a little slow. We can go in on a needle. It's heated up since we come out here this morning. Being up overnight doesn't help either. Wing might be a little bit up, but I really can't tell. Yeah, it's up a little bit. See if we can tell. What we did, we have my motor in here with the 280 Venturi and Wayne Triven's prop, so we can lean on this a little more if we want to. It's kind of looking like it's up a little bit both ways. Mike, does that look up both ways? Probably wind up with a little extra tip weight in here anyway. Motor's on the slow side, so we'll go in a little on the needle. This motor has 30 gallons of fuel through it as we speak, and Mike Costello was going to put it in one of his planes, so we were going to use it in, I don't know what he's making, a Cobra or something. It's not dropping a tip, so we'll put tip weight in even if he doesn't need it. So the first thing is, before we add any nose weight, we moved the handle halfway through the adjustments. He's right about in the middle of the handle adjustments now. Okay, on flight 3, we got tip weight in the plane. Rich is the second happiest guy in Bergen County right now. I'm the happiest because we're done with this and I don't have to see him all night again. Right now my wife hates him. Ruined our whole Friday night. Never even got to watch the doll show last night. Absolutely beautiful. Does it look level, Mike? Still up. It's still up both ways. He still needs tip weight. It was up upright, I know that.
nice flying speed though, especially in this goofy air. Yeah, it's up both ways the same, so it needs more tip weight. He's flying 018s. He had somebody make him up a pre-made set of lines that was supposed to be 66 feet, and when we measured them, they were 76. They were about 10 feet too long, so it's a good thing we just didn't buy. Always good if you buy pre-made lines, measure it yourself, no matter who makes them, even if I make them. Do your own double checking. It was so funny when we went to fuel up the plane the first time in the driveway, we wanted to bench run it. Put 1 ounce of fuel in the tank and the overflow is flowing. Well, when you take one of these tanks, the overflow, when you flip it over to fly this way, the overflow is on the other side. It's on the bottom. Congratulations. Looks like it turns tight enough. We'll have to see. Definitely, next flight, more tip weight. Now, we learned a whole lot here this morning. And the funniest thing is we added more tip weight. He's got about 2 ounces of clay here. He made a little baby tip weight box that only holds about 1/3 the weight you need. Never make a little baby tip weight box. It doesn't have to be light and it doesn't have to be small. There's no advantage. The other thing we, came to the conclusion right away before we even flew the plane that the motor I know was happier. This motor was happy with Wayne's prop, so there's no point even fooling with the 3-blade. He has 2 tachometers. Now this is funny. Brings one out, go to tack the engine, no battery in the tack. Take the other tack out, go to tack the engine, the battery's dead. So he borrows my tack, leaves the switch on while he's flying, and my tack goes dead. Rich, you're just having a bad day. This man, I'm telling you. Anyway, we got all black zip ties on it. I haven't had anything loosen up with the black zip ties. Be aware, Home Depot white zip ties, when they warm up, they just go pop. I don't know what the deal is with it. No, I know. Now, he's going to have to invest in a good battery. And then the other thing, came out, well, we were fooling around with the engine yesterday, and came out with his battery, wouldn't even light one glow plug. But then he killed Kajeski's battery, doing something. He didn't kill it? Oh, yours is still okay. He killed mine. So here we are, there's 6 guys at the field. He's killed everybody's battery except this thing that's on an end of an extension cord. Two chokes, or else you got another dead battery. Two chokes, Rich. 2 chokes. You don't have to take the wire off. Choke it and then flip it right away. No. This motor started 30 gallons of fuel, started dead reliable. And I can't believe it. He's figured a way to make it unreliable. This battery is a winner. Now flip it quick, don't wait. So much for what I know. Another dead battery. Yeah, shut Lindy's tack off, Rich, so that battery's dead too. So the battery companies love this guy. Anyway, for first day out, and some amount of fuel through it already. The biggest thing we ran into was that he made the tip weight box too small. Other than that, it looks like it's going to trim out. And this time next week, we'll all be at the Nats. He really pushed us right to the end. Every morning that I come out here, feed the fish, walk around our little garden, I just have to reflect on how much work something like this really is, but how much it's really worth it. You'll see we got, and I know other people think flowers are like a big waste of time or something, but I love these flowers. This is our first bloom on our little baby hydrangea. He's coming up. All the flowers are coming up here. And since we're going to be leaving for the Nats soon, I like to get a kind of a little memory of just how cool this garden has come out this year. We really had a great time back here. Really had a good time. This has been one of the really fun things to do this year. A lot of work, but like anything, it's a lot of work. I know the raccoon enjoys it. He's back here all the time. Anyway, just a little look at what Karen and I do besides play toy airplanes. We're really happy with the backyard, but Rich Jacobone's got his first flight on his plane, and we're going to try to get up there, get him a couple more flights today, and we're going to come back here and work on the yard some more. Many fun things in life. All right, up the field. At this time of year, when you get up early in the morning, and I typically get up about 5:30 to go flying, have coffee out by the fish, feed the birds, and then ride down these tree-lined streets of Rutherford. I just love the tree-lined streets this time of year. It really makes you appreciate how good of a life we all, actually everybody has. To live in this day and age, have indoor plumbing, and have a hobby like model planes, and stunts specifically. The sun is just coming up over the horizon here as we leave for the field. Now we decided, a unanimous club decision, that we were going to all stand by and critique Rich's body English. His body English is holding him back from becoming a true model airplane superstar. It's a unanimous, everybody here agrees Rich has to change this body English. He has got some terrible habits, aside from not going to the dentist, and a Tic Tac wouldn't kill him either. He brought bagels for us thinking he's all going to be friends today. He doesn't know we're going to let him have it. So stand by. Yeah, hike. Stand by. This is not me really coming up with this. This is everybody in the club agrees. The man has a pro plane. He's got his world champion shirt on. I mean, he's ready for big time now. The only part missing is body English. So let's get with the program.
Makes it flat. Yeah. And I don't know
look, Rich.
Tigers. I've seen Tigers do it, but it's a pretty.
You ready to audition for this job?
Kerncraft is, you know.
Okay, bow to the audience. Hello, George Aldridge. How are you?
The ones that Bill had.
Even George, who flies backwards.
Extension on it was too short.
Okay.
But I stayed way away.
But the body English. Now we're kidding around with Rich, but seriously, it's a terrible handicap. And he just crashed his Nobler because he can't back up. He gets into these concocted positions and can't back up when you lose line tension.
With sweat running in your eyes.
He's having a lot of trouble starting his Jett 50, I can see. Don't like that at all. Had to drop his handkerchief in there. He's got two tacks. Neither one of them have a good battery in them. One doesn't work, one has no batteries. But this body English thing is really serious now. Now let's get a look right from the start. And everybody that ever goes flying can learn something from this. This is not little baby stuff. This is a big thing now. So you should always have the lines rewound ahead of time. When you go out there, you just wasted 15 seconds. The thong should always be open, so you don't feel like you're wrestling an alligator out there. Okay. Let's look at his feet now, watch. Okay, he's going over to the concrete pad. All right, now, anybody would like to add comments, positive or negative? See, the plane is not in front of him. The plane is off to one side. He's flying with half his body not facing the plane. His shoulders are not square to the plane. Now watch what happens. Look at this arm. Look at this. Watch the arm. Weird. Now watch. He spreads his feet when he's going to do loops. Here we go. Watch this. How do you back up from that position? You'll fall over. Yeah, he's better, but he's not right. If you have to back, he's leaning back. You cannot back up when you're leaning back. Look at these chickens all yanking and cranking here.
How you gonna step back?
Everybody's an expert. All right, outsides. Look at the hand. Now, when that hand is down around your gut, how do you back up? There's no reserve there at all. No reserve. They're being kind to you, Rich. I don't want to read now. Let's see the square. Now that was unnecessary. Everybody out there can pick up some tips on a good idea too. Just videotape yourself on a stationary camera and see what kind of crazy concoctions you get into. Now when we get into the square 8, this is really going to be funny. The guys are all standing around ready to throw eggs at him. Now, feet should be together, not apart. That's terrible by bending the elbow there. Losing all your reserves. See that? Now, if you really want to have fun, run this on fast forward on your VCR with the remote. You'll see it look like Anyway, one of the things I used to do years ago is I used to put the tripod so it was focused on me, and I could find all kind of crazy things I was doing. Now watch. In the outside part, he puts the handle sideways. Watch this. 1, 2, there, sideways. What is that for? All of these things just add an unnecessary element into the equation. And if the plane goes, and especially on this field where we fly, when the plane goes soft on, you want to back up. See, by having your arm bent here, you have no reserve. Right here, that arm, you have no reserve. There's no way you can back up. And the leaning back is the worst part of it. When you're leaning back, really difficult to back up in a hurry. If you're leaning forward, your heels are off the ground, you can back up in a nanosecond. Anyway, I hope somebody out there will pick up some good information off of this. It's one of the topics we discussed at length in our flying clinic in England, and boy, everybody had comments at that. That was one of the most highly heated arguments, but everybody agreed. You've got to be able to back up instantly.
Why didn't you stop it here, for Christ's sake?
Because he wants to annoy you.
Rich, when you see this video, you won't believe. You know, if they audition a guy for the Howdy Doody show, you're in.
Oh, he's going to want to sell it.
Now, in today's mail, we got a lot of cool stuff came in today. Some nice pictures from Kent Tyser, and of course this is his variation of Strega. A little bit different paintwork. He's got the Strega lettering. And we got the fly displaying at Brodax, and it's a jewel. And we're going to be seeing Kent at the Nats. We're going to be leaving soon to get ready for this Nats and packing up. This is a good one. Again, nice view showing the belly scoop, and with the imminent possibility of doing a P-51 coming up, just gives you more possibilities to think of. Nice treatment of the whole plane, and very competitive flying. And again, a real nice rendition. Kent Tyser, North Carolina. This is one really special plane. This is Jim Sumner. This is the second one I know that we've seen of his triplane series. It's powered by a 4-stroke. It's got 1,020 total square inches, an MDS 58 or a Sato 56 4-cycle. He flies on full 70-foot lines. From Connecticut, he sent 2 nice pictures of this. And believe me, this thing flies real well. There's pictures of it flying on the Brodax videos. I've been looking through my latest copy of Aeroplane magazine, which this is the one the guys gave me from England. And look what's in here. Steve, did Julia eat your heart out? It's a yellow mosquito. Now look in the background, you can see a little model of a Spitfire hanging. Anyway, Steve, a very unusual paint job. Would probably look great on a stunt ship. I put this on video. Take a second here. This is the ship we're going to be flying in, or one just like it. And of course we're going to have video. You can never have anything in life without having video. And this was what Karen had gotten me for a Father's Day gift. And if you're interested in any of this, now obviously you can download it all off the internet. I just thought this may be of some value. Here's some of the other things. Again, I'm not a big internet guy that runs around downloading the whole world. I don't have the ability or the time to do it, but just look at some of the other choices. And this is going to be in an AT6. Get to do some aerobatics. And definitely we'll have something to report into Banjock about. Anyway, instant gift certificate. I'm trying to go through this. Karen actually downloaded all this. Oh, here we go. Anyway, we're going to be doing this the day before my birthday, which is about a month away, so don't go away mad. Here's a picture from Paul Watts. Needless to say, it's a Brodax Cardinal kit, powered by a KMB-40. We got to spend a little time, not as much as we would have liked out of Brodax, but hey, I appreciate any photo, and we really are starting to get a collection of these. I know the whole first production run was sold out, but as the pictures are coming in, hey, it makes a nice picture album to have a picture of all of these. Anyway, he even promises to buy me pizza next time we meet. I'll hold you to that, Paul. One of my favorite people, Noel Drindak, he's been doing a bunch of research and development for me on flexible shafts. The reason we're thinking about using flexible shafts, if we do this Miss Ashley or Mustang project, it may be that we want to make the control horn from a flexible shaft, or part of it, I'm not sure. we're relying on Noel to come up with some bulletproof idea, and obviously it's got to be something. He downloads all this stuff off the internet. Obviously I'll save it all. And Noel, I really appreciate it, but we're depending on you to come up with the proper solution to this problem. And of course the other one is you can just run 2 push rods. But anyway, we're trying to start a little data bank for Miss Ashley P51 project for next year. The week before the mats, I wanted to make as many bell cranks as possible so I'd have some to sell and display. Well, previous to that, of course, we had made this little box. And this would only make 1 bell crank at a time, of course, from that mold. This, of course, is the RTV mold. Now, of course, making 1 a day is fine if you only have sales for 1 a day, but in the case of these, we need to make a lot more than 1 a day. So what I did, I made a cavity up. I made up 5 bell cranks, dressed them all up, did a little touch-up on them, mounted it on a block of particle board, left over from our wing jig, by the way. And now I'll build a little box around this, pour the molding rubber on this, and from this day on until the day we leave for the mats, I'll be able to make 5 a day. That should give me a nice supply of stuff to sell at the mats. I make a multi-cavity mold, what I want to do, the whole object of the whole thing is to be able to replicate parts. In this case, as an example, one of the things is I can run 1 piece of toe right down in this direction, run some of my pieces of toe in this direction, and it'll just save a lot of cutting and fussing with the toe when I pack the mold. I also learned right away in making up the bushing areas, I had to enlarge them from what I originally designed in, so that I could get more toe to go around each one of the eyelets, because obviously that's part of what's given it the strength. So from this point on, it's not a big deal to make the box, mix the molding rubber, mix it 2 or 3 minutes more than you really think you need, let it cure overnight, and tomorrow we should be able to make, in fact, some of these resins, the Pro Set resins, they harden up real quickly, so we should be able to get, I'm hoping to take about 20 out there. The problem with a 1 cavity mold is no matter, you're limited by how many parts you can make by the cure time of the resin. In this case, another choice I would have is just to keep replicating this original piece and make 5, 6 of these, but each one of those cycles takes a day. So when I made the commitment to use up the 5 bell cranks that I had made, now each cycle is 5, 5, 5, 5. So you can see in the week or so, I should be able to make, without any problem at all, be able to make 20. Now I really only need to make the box maybe 3/4 of an inch, but by making it a little thicker, it'll ensure that it'll be nice and rigid in all dimensions when I flip this rubber over. It's also important when I lay this out to dry, I don't want to lay it on an angle because some of the rubber eventually rolls off, and when you go to mold the part, you're fighting a downhill battle. So the number 1 object here is to try to get everything nice and level so that the flat surface of this will wind up relatively flat, and when I turn it over to do my layups, I won't be fighting with the mold on an angle. Well, this is the molding rubber that I've found to be the best for modeling use. And it's a 10-to-1 mix. You need to mix it real accurate on a grain scale. And once you think it's mixed, mix it another at least 2 to 5 minutes. Stir it slowly so you don't get any air bubbles in it. Now you can see the catalyst has a little blue tint. The first couple times I used molding rubber, I was a little intimidated by it because it didn't seem like it wanted to mix that well, and you can see it really doesn't. But that's very typical. You want to be real careful to scrape the sides. And the best trick of all is when you think this is mixed, give it another 2 to 5 minutes of mixing. I'm going slow because I don't want to make a bunch of air bubbles. You can't mix it with a Mix-O-Matic. But once you use this stuff, it really opens up the door to a lot of real neat modeling possibilities. And of course, our Spitfire has molded spar. a phone call. Let me get the phone. You can see after plenty of mixing, it really does homogenize. But again, it's that scraping of the sides that really, you don't want to get it like that, a part of it, and that's the biggest mistake you can make using molding rubber, is to get a streak of it that isn't really catalyzed well. Anyway, we're going to just let this sit for a few minutes. That lets all the air bubbles rise to the top, and this will be ready to pour. Now, a good trick on doing a pour like this that I've found is I really like to get into all the low areas and let it sit for a minute or so. This really might be overkill, but again, if you get one air bubble somewhere right up on the part, it's really a problem. So I like to pour some amount of it here and just let the air bubbles rise out of it, even though we don't have that many in here right now. Anyway, and as we move forward with this projected carbon fiber fuselage technology, I want to learn as many tricks as I can. See the air bubbles coming to the top right now? And whether we do a hard mold or a soft mold, either way, you don't want to have anything but a perfect surface up against the part you're trying to mold. There's a big air bubble right down there. See them coming up to the surface now? So if you're patient here and you wait 8-10 minutes, 5 minutes, some amount of time, what'll usually happen, these bubbles will rise to the surface, and then you can just pour the rest of the rubber right on top. Now as you do the second half of the pour, you'll see the air bubbles will be coming right to the top. And the more you can let that air escape, and here's a big one right here, the more integrity you'll have in that actual piece of molding rubber. Now it's self-leveling, so the main thing is to get it on a level surface as soon as possible. Check it with a carpenter's level. It just makes, when you actually go to lay up the part, a lot easier, and I learned that the hard way. Any you have left over here, if I thought we weren't going to have any. This is 400 grains of rubber. 440. Actually, when you count the kicker. Anyway, this is going to have to sit overnight, of course. In the meantime, we're making up a couple of tune pipes. I want to have a couple of spares at the gnats. The one prototype that we've been replicating over and over again seems to be working real well, and it looks like that's going to be one of our production designs. And we'll be making a separate video on that, of course. As soon as we have material for sale, we already have a few orders, so we want to make sure it's right before we get it shipped out. Now see all the air still came to the top? Now you just got to put this aside to dry. Now once the molding rubber dries, of course, the next step is just to carefully, and of course this is one of the areas where you don't want to destroy the mold, pulling it apart. Anyway, what this is going to give us the option of is making 5 bell cranks a day. Actually 6, we can make 1 from the single mold. I think 6 a day will keep us in business right now. But you never know when you make a new product if it's going to be well received or not well received. Ooh, come on, puppy. Ooh. Okay, you can see what it did. It pulled out some of the paint, but the paint peels right off. You want to be real careful. You don't want to leave any of these little speckles of paint. Okay, so now with our layup potential, we can potentially lay up 6 at a time. There's another point we have, though, is the original plug from this. I can make another mold, so I'll have 11 cavities, the same as with the spinner back plates. So I have lots of choices here now. Next step, and I'll do it off camera, is just to lay these up so I can do a test plug and see if they're going to come out with as few imperfections that need to be dressed off as possible. I put a coat of mold release on there, smooth on molders. I want to make sure I have a sheet of Teflon big enough to cover it once it's laid up. And of course my press board, another piece of particle board left over from making a wing jig. So that's ready. Now what I'm going to try to do, and I don't know what the working time on doing 5 of these is going to be, so I have all the toe cut. I'm going to have everything ready, and I'm going to mix the resin and hope that I can get all 5 laid up and put the press board on before it starts to cure. Now, just like anything else, I want to see I'm going to have to lay it up once just to see what kind of time window I need to do 5 at a time. And it may be that what'll be easier is if I just lay one at a time up and then move that sheet of Teflon down as I'm doing it. And the first step, as always, is to get some epoxy down into the mold and let the air bubbles rise out of it. And that's what the heat lamp does. It helps it thin the viscosity and get the air bubbles to come to the top. Again, the whole trick here is you got to get the air bubbles to come up out of the mold, and you got to figure your working time so you can get a good layup here. Otherwise, you wind up with those air bubbles on the edge of the part where you don't want them, and it just makes for a sloppy looking part. Even though they don't hurt anything, it just doesn't look as nice. The way I've been doing these, I've been putting a little bit of chopped carbon down around in the areas where the eyelets go first to make sure that's one of the points I don't want to have the pressed eyelets not have a good supply of carbon down in the corner. Actually doing the layup, this part of it is kind of easy. This is no problem doing this. Because most of this stuff I have to invent as I go along. You know, it'd be nice if somebody already put a set of plans in a magazine or something, but it's the kind of stuff you kind of have to invent as you go along. And that's the part of the thing that I really enjoy, is the invention part of it. Just replicating what somebody else has done is really nowhere near as challenging as if you have to actually invent a way to do it. Oops, what a time for somebody to call. One of the things I try to do now is basically connect the ends with one layer of tow. Again, it's a little bit of a nuisance packing a mold. You want to get as much carbon packed down in there into those reinforcing ribs as possible. Once I get to this point, now I know from having made a bunch of these that I always need a little bit of extra toe down at the bottom. Even though it doesn't show at this point, you really do need some down at the bottom. Otherwise you wind up with too much resin down at the bottom. So now obviously it's just going to be a race against the clock to see if I can get all 5 of these cavities filled. Okay, it's just a question now, working my way up the mold and the race against the clock. Okay, now the last step of this whole operation is I want to flood the mold with whatever resin is left over. And now the idea is to squeeze out as much of the extra resin, all the excess resin. Try to get some of our tow to go in various directions so we build some strength that way. Now we need a sheet of Teflon, and now we need to work out all the air bubbles. This is usually the trickiest of the parts. Now I can feel from how hot, this is almost so hot you can't touch it, that we probably are close to the time window during which we're going to be able to make these, and we're not going to be able to exceed that. So it might be appropriate that I can only make 4 at a time. After I do a couple of cycles here, I'll know. Whenever you're doing anything new like this, there's always that little invention period that just takes time to figure out what's the most appropriate way of doing it. Well, we've got most of them out. Okay, we'll see how that looks tomorrow. Now you can see after I pull the mold apart, you can see from Russian, and this is what happens, is you get flaws in the mold. Now what I'm going to have to do is the next time possibly think about maybe doing 1 at a time, 2 at a time. Having these air bubbles is just my own sloppiness from not loading up the mold right. But there's 2 or 3 there that I can use. So it was a good first pull on the mold. All I did, I put the mold release on here. I'll remold this today, see what I can salvage out of here. All I'm looking for here is to have a couple of samples to take to the nets anyway. 1 or 2 will even be enough, but as many as I can get. Again, now each time I do this cycle, I can make 5. I can go right over here, make a 6th one, and make one of the old style, the 4 inches. So I can actually right now be making 7 every time I do a pull. See, I have a relatively nice finisher on the side that the Teflon imports. Like I mentioned before, pressing all the bushings on a Stimson press so they're press fit, nice and tight. That should be, well, we're going to find out if we sell any of these at the nets. If people at Brodex sold out every one I had, so we're going to find out. Just got home today and there's a package from Rory Tennyson. Oops. Nice button. Got some Supermarine stuff. Nice pouch. He's been on a world tour and I don't know where he got this stuff from. He didn't say. This is cool. Tell me this isn't cool. Anyway, this is something I can really use. Imagine sitting down on this. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be putting this on my keys, the real keys. Anyway, Rory sends this. Now, I know Karen's going to have a heart attack when she sees this. Rory, you got to understand something, my boy. But Karen isn't into this, the Harley thing. The Buffalo Saloon, look at this. Maybe I'll just give this to John Brodak to wear. Because if you're watching this, if you let John wear this shirt, I'll send it out to him. Wow. Anyway, thanks a whole lot. I really appreciate it. Rory, we have exchanged so many crazy things over the years. He sent me O-gauge trains. I've sent him things. It's been a great friendship. One of the things neat about the world is stunt. Thanks a whole lot. Really, I had this great idea. Look, you know, by the way, the shirt is cool. I had this great idea. Now, you would think by looking at this, I run a prison camp or something. Anyway, what I tried to do is I tried to get this to work out. So it just about works out, but I'm going to have to make a little modification here to the key ring. And what's happened in the past when I've added things that have dangled down more, as I'm driving the car, they do this and they scratch up that crazy little steering wheel that's on a Windstar. So I have to figure out how to shorten this chain. But hey, it's a cool little thing. And I think, well, I don't remember if when we were by Elliott's if we got something like this too. Cool to have, and I really appreciate these little gifts. They're kind of cool. And I can't wait to go for this AT6 Texan ride. Oh, here's Wendy. Oh yeah. We'll get even with Wendy. I got some really nice pictures in today's mail too. There's one picture here that, well, I don't even know how to say it. It's from Tommy Tucker, and he has a picture of his grandson here. He sent a very long, detailed thing describing the model and the history of the model, but this is the picture I'm sure he's going to want to see on video. Tommy, I know you're proud of your grandson. He looks like a future world champion to me. And he calls the plane the AJ Special. Anyway, he's making a special request that I pass these on to Pampa. I always pass them on to Pampa. If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to walk in the house. There'd be no room. Anyway, it almost looks like a little bit like Ski Dombrowski's model, doesn't it? And the grandson, I have to tell you, I'm proud of my grandson too. I understand, Tommy. Hey, you fly, and I'll just give you a brief little list. He flies out at Flushing, flying with Nancy and Tony. First designed in 1973, has a Big Jim motor, purrs like a kitten, approximately 480 inches of wing area, 41 ounces. OS Max 35S. Anyway, Tommy, appreciate it a lot, and we will send them on to Tom Morris. I'm sure he'll use the pictures. Well, tomorrow we leave for the Nats. This is the last day, well, I should say, this is, looks like it might be the only day we really get to do a full practice on the setup that we had developed. Setup which includes full-length solid lines, Dennis Toast's prop, the pipes that I've been making, the GMA 60's got about, I think we're on gallon 21 now, I'm not sure. We've got a lot of flights on all three of the motors, and I'm just hoping to get, before the air goes crazy here, get a couple of decent practice flights, and we'll be ready to load up the van and get going to Muncie. Now again, the object of getting up here so early in the morning, so we can catch a flight while the air is still cool, or at least one. What I'm real happy with, one of the really nice benefits of this motor that I like is the wide range on the needle setting. The needle setting is really, really friendly. A couple of the things that I've come to like a lot is Dennis Toast's prop. I've really had good luck with them. He's made me a few extra. So we'll be bringing those to the Nats. Midgley's going to be down with Woody later today. He's going to get packed up and ready for the Nats. It's always, it's a time of, I wish this summer would have gone a little different. I had a tremendous amount of time I wasted over in my rental property, and it really ate into my practice time, but I guess you gotta go with what you gotta go with. That's all there is to it. No excuses, no whimpering and whining. But we did get, I think that's gallon 21. We got 21 gallons on this power train. And we have about 3 gallons on this pipe now, and this is the pipe that we had in the plane at Brodax. We won that meet. So that was very nice. A little confidence. Anyway, I guess the overall thing to come at it a whole season so far is that all of these Spitfires just really seem to have that awesome flat corner. Even George Aldrich was impressed and mentioned many times that he's never seen a harder corner in plane. A friendlier motor. I guess that's a pretty good setup, and that's something if I can get, before the year goes, I ought to get going instead of yapping. If I can get a couple of decent flights, I'll feel like the drive out to Muncie will be a lot more pleasant.
So the reason I left the camera running right to the end on that flight, I wanted to show you what I've accomplished in terms of getting the engine to shut off. And I got to thank Tom Hampshire for this. I mean, I went back and forth. Woody made up two different gas tanks. I've tried GRWs, Taffenders, all different brands of tank, and trying to get that to shut off. And the only thing that really seemed to work, and I never really get too excited until I see it happen for a whole year in a row. What happened is Tom recalled an article that Al Rabe wrote years ago about cocking the back of the tank off. Now what happens is, the theory is that the plane flies with the nose out, and as it runs out of fuel, it cocks the nose out and more fuel goes to the back. Whatever the theory is, I don't know. I'm not a theory guy. I'm a guy that likes to see it happen at the field. But anyway, whether I should be thanking Al Rabe or Tom, I don't know. Or both of them. It's okay because it seems to be shutting off with, and I wouldn't want it to shut off without at least one warning burp. When it's running lean, I get 2 warning burps. When it's running rich, like it is now early in the morning, calm air, kind of dead air. In fact, you can see on those outside rounds, I had to really back up. I had to backpedal a little bit. Now, I was trying to help Rich Jacobone get a clue for backing up during his flights. He just seems to stand there, and I don't know. I think it's the fact that he's crashed the plane already this year is an indication of that he can't run back fast enough. But anyway, if you can pick some of that up, the tank in the plane right now is cocked off 1/8 of an inch. So that point is facing the outside. And it seems to give you a better shut-off. Again, I'm trying to get a couple of flights in here before the air goes bad. And there hasn't been one day that we've been flying this year that it hasn't gone bad. Real quickly, too.
Couple of things that I always think of just before Nats. Every year that I've ever gone to the Nats, it's totally different than the year before. Each time there's something new happens, something unexpected happens, you make new friends. People you get to meet for the first time. In this case, I'm hoping that Elliot's going to join us on Wednesday, be part of the action. Midgley and his father are looking forward to a good vacation. We're going to be piggybacking down there, and I don't know, each year, the other thing that happens, and it happens to me all the time, is I start thinking, how many of these years I've already done this? I've been doing this since 1957, on and off, and mostly on. But how many people that I've come in contact with in the world and made friends with and done business with and whatever, that if it weren't for model aviation, I don't think I'd ever meet them. I probably would have never gone out of Rutherford. Anyway, 2 years ago when I started this plane, my business partner Joe Kay had just passed away, and I decided I would dedicate it to him. I hope he's in there flying right now. I mean, I know this is emotional stuff, but I hope he's in there somewhere up in heaven looking down on it and saying, go on, you gotta have a good time. Think about me. He was some special guy. Believe me, if you never got to meet him, he was a special one. Well, as we've gone through the first couple hours of the day, one of the things, and I really should be doing this, I should have been doing this a lot sooner, but I just wasn't able to spare the time. What I like to do is figure out my fuel consumption on an early morning flight. Now in this case, what happens is, early in the morning, when it's cool, I need the whole tank of fuel. And that's as it should be. But as it warms up, and it's gotten quite warm now, the little meter says 86, but I don't know what it really is. It's just an estimate. What I like to do now is I time some of the flights with my stopwatch. I also count the laps at the end of the flight. Come out of the clover, come into level flight. I like to have 10 laps. 10 laps is safe. 10 laps is a ballpark number.
What happens if I have 5? Cutting it kind of close. If you have to skip a lap or if you have to spend time at the needle or whatever, that's really cutting it kind of close. In this case, as the day is warmed up from this morning, when we got here at daybreak, it was really cool. The sun's out now, it's warmed up quite good. So what's happened is, I'm getting 18, 19 laps, so what I'm going to do now is start by taking out 1/4 of an ounce of fuel. See how that works? Probably work my way up. It'll probably take 3/8 or 1/2 ounce of fuel now. Obviously, there's a lot of ways to do this. Some people try to put a certain amount of fuel in the tank. The reason I don't like to do that is you never know if there's a little bit left over from the other flight. I think it's much safer, my prejudiced opinion anyway, that you're better off taking it out. In this case, let's take out 1/4 of an ounce, but probably be, maybe just right. It's never just right. It's always just wrong. But anyway, now what I find with this, usually when I draw fuel out, it needs quite a few more chokes because what it's doing is pulling out the fuel from it's in the line going to the engine. So I always want to keep that in mind. I don't want to spend 10 minutes starting the engine either.
We're going to have time for one more flight. And we'll be ready to leave for the Nationals. all, that's it. 1999 has ended here in our preparation. We're about ready to get home, get cleaned up, polished up, get a haircut, get some deodorant on, get a couple hours sleep. And hey, all the people that have enjoyed sharing the tapes and watching them, and hey, I guess just enjoyed the adventure. Now that we have people overseas joining us, hey, it's even more fun. And if you enjoy our Nats coverage and our Brodak coverage, and I don't know how else, I don't know how else you could be there if it wasn't for these videos. And if I wasn't doing them, I would be hoping that somebody else would, because I'd subscribe to all of them. I'd want to share the whole adventure. I wish there was people in England and Czechoslovakia and Antarctica and everything, penguins doing this and everything, so just so I could be all places at all times. We have some prototype belt cranks and a couple of prototype pipes to take out, which will, I guess, just add to our little enjoyment of being out there and sharing the time. Most of all, it's a vacation for me, getting away from these rental properties, getting away from the machine shop, getting away from answering the phone 24 hours a day. It's just murder. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the tapes, please pass them on, please share them, and if you haven't, hey, it's okay. You can let me know, and I'll put some more humor in the next one. And again, each year we prepare, we do our best to get ready, hope that we can be as competitive as possible, but always to keep it all in perspective. In the bigger picture of life, the bigger picture of rental property, hey, it's a great vacation away from reality. There was a line in a movie I remember that, whatever it was a great place to hide from reality, a great place to hide from life, and boy, when you need to get away from it all, there's nothing better than stunt. Time to pack for the Nats.